Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell, the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today we continue down the whole cargo transport aircraft lane, and we are moving through some of the more obscure airplanes, and this one actually had a dual purpose. Do you realize that, Greg? It had a dual purpose in that it was really the aircraft that jumped over that kind of hurdle to get it to a true civilian use, which a lot of these airplanes never made it. They were very, we talked about the 133 as an example, very, very targeted airplanes. But this one actually jumped over into civilian use, and that is the Grumman, the Gulfstream 1, or its working title. It was the G-159, if you did not know that. And today, my meretricious friend has done me up in some subtle garb, Greg. So subtle that I am not going to acknowledge it, but this is, I might look good in an earring. What do you think? Just taking a trip to Academe with my earring. So I'm going to toss this off camera. Here we go. There we go. Thank you. But we are talking today about the G-159, which would become the Gulfstream 1. Now, manufacturers had a big problem. The aircraft manufacturers had. After World War II, you were going down a steady stream of military, just strictly military application aircraft, like fighters and bombers, purpose-built aircraft. We were also having a lot of aircraft that were dual use, and in the cargo and transport arena, they were struggling because they were trying to figure out how to kind of do this move away from a strictly guns economy, right, to a guns and butter economy, and do both things. Now, Grumman was no different. And they were thinking about, right after World War II, there was not a lot of medium range, kind of higher speed transport airplanes. If you wanted to have one on the civilian side, as an example, you're talking about a C-47, a repurposed C-47, a repurposed B-25, A-26, just go down the line, maybe even a PV2, which is, you can throw all those up there, Greg, and give you a little bit of it. Grumman took a look at their TF1, their tracker. We're going to use a later version of this. This is the submarine version of that. There was a cargo version of this airplane built as well. But they were looking at the TF1, the trader, and the tracker was the subversion of the airplane. The challenge for this was they did a study on the airplane. They spent quite a bit of time repurposing the airplane. And what they found out, Greg, was that they did a bunch of studies. They talked to a bunch of business people, and they just didn't feel that the TF1 would make a crossover into a pure civilian environment or a dual-use aircraft. So they abandoned that idea. They took out a clean sheet of paper, and they said, okay, well, what if we go with a low-wing aircraft? I'm going to throw up the plan view of this good old Grumman tracker. Greg can throw that up there. And they messed around with, we want a low-wing, we go turboprop, because remember, in the early 50s now, turboprops are catching on. This aircraft had radial engines in it. There were big problems with radials. They were very tough, but they were loud. They vibrated. You're not going to get the kind of speed in the design out of them that you want. And so what they decided to do is they were just going to go with a brand new design. So hence, the G-159 was born. Now, in all that messing around, they lost time. And the first flight on this airplane was in 1958. It was built from 1959, so they moved fairly quickly. From 1959 to 1969, there were 200 of them built. Now, I didn't know that at the time, Greg. I thought they were a lower build rate of that, but they're actually used in quite a bit of but a bit of different circumstances. With the G159, when they finished design and they decided it was going to work, and they had replaced this with turboprops, so they went back to really titans of business, and they said, look, we're thinking about building an airplane that is going to be truly an executive coach, and we want you to, what will you do for that? And initially the executives were not real excited about it, but then they rebranded it as the Gulfstream in 1958, and that made all the difference in the world. If you can think about that, and the perception of the airplane changed in that now they were marketing it as more of a high-end executive coach and a civilian transport airplane. In other words, you could move people in it. So they came up with a 24-seat configuration in more of an airliner version. They developed some very purpose-built military applications that we're going to talk about, and then they came up with an executive suite version of this. And Greg can throw up a number of the different configurations on the internals. And the executive configuration could seat somewhere between 8 to 10, depending on how you laid it out. And the unique thing that Grumman did was when they took those $10,000 orders, is basically you could lay out the airplane how you wanted it, which was something that in a new build was highly unusual, and it gave for a lot of customization. So Ford Motor Company, a lot of these people got very excited about it. Walt Disney, all these folks got excited about it. So they plunked down their orders over time, and the airplane came into being. It was powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Dart turbine engines. It was relatively fast at 348 miles an hour. So think about that compared to a B-25, where you're humming along, chugging along, I should say, in a DC-3 at a couple hundred miles an hour, or maybe a little bit better. The airplane was a lot faster. It had pretty good range. Now, what they did is they went back to the military, and they pitched the same aircraft to the military, because again, dual use. You cut your overhead. You're pitching it to the military, and they pitched it to the U.S. military as the C-4 Academy. And what they could do on this was they could use it for navigation and transport training. That was the TC-4, the version. And then the VC-4 was also used. VC-4A was used by the United States Coast Guard. Now, there's an interesting thing about this, Greg, and that is that and this is going to be our salute today, but this aircraft was used as a flying radio station that would orbit off the coast of Cuba from 2006 to 2013, and it would broadcast free Cuba, radio free Cuba into Cuba from the airplane, which is really cool if you think about that. And that is going to lead me to my salute, and that is not only operators. Phoenix Air operates this, and big shout out to Phoenix Air. They were operating these up until a short period of time ago. But think about, if you want to talk about a lousy mission that you would have to do, is go and basically orbit off of Cuba and basically broadcast into Cuba every day for all that period of time. And, the air crews that did that had to be really tough. So I don't normally do like a salute to a specific air crew, but today we're going to do it because to those folks that were doing that weather over there can be really bizarre in that area. And what a thankless job that was, to be basically a flying radio station. Now today, I'm going to be doing it, I haven't seen this one, with AL-8. Okay, AL-8, is that it? Established in 1926. So obviously AL-8's been around a while. This is the original AL-8. Best of the bluegrass in green grass. Interesting stuff. 120 calories. Now I don't know. The last one you gave me was Deader Than Dead. This one's kind of scary. It doesn't, oh, you're giving me the thumbs up there. This Greg is saying quality control is number one for me. All right, well, we're going to pop this. Oh, there's a little bit of a fizz there. That's good. Botulism has not followed me again. And there's a little bit of head on it. So there we go, Greg. I'm in good stead here. So to all of the crews that have operated this airplane, a lot of unsung folks that operated this, and to those Radio Free Cuba folks that were doing it, I salute you. You notice my palate. This is like the discerning palate. I'm becoming a connoisseur of soda everywhere. This is like a flat ginger ale. You know, not a lot of edge to it. Mandatory second sip. It is cold, so that's a nice thing. But the no botulism for me today. This was cold. It was nice. So this aircraft soldiered on. As of 2006, there were still about 44 in operation of the original build. They have dwindled now to the point where I'm not sure there are any operating. If it is, it's below 10. There may be some that are airworthy, but the question is, are they still flying? And so that, but I'd say they almost have passed into history. The United States military used them besides the VC-4A, the TC-4, and the C-4. Later in life, they used these as a command and control aircraft, which is kind of an interesting use for it. Up until about 2001, they were retired. I am told at the Boneyard at AMARG that they're still over there. Maybe Greg can find some images. Now, probably it would be remiss of me to not talk about probably the most famous G1, which is of course Walt Disney's airplane. That airplane resides with us. We've done a lot of media on that, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it today. We have a great exhibit here. Come on over to the museum or go out to our site, palmspringsairmuseum.org, or on our Facebook page, and you get a ton of information about this great exhibit and the airplane. But there's so much more to the airplane that's why we're doing the type today than just one user. But its most well-known use, of course, was Walt Disney as Mickey Mouse 1. Now, if you want to feel that you have a closeness to the G1, you can click on the link and get this fantastic G1 shirt, which will fly its way to you. This is a Grumman shirt, and it has the image of Walt's aircraft on it, but also has some other specs, and it has the N234 Mickey Mouse, MM, the tail number on the airplane, and you can get this sent to you. This is a conversation piece. I think if you actually wear this, people would come up to you and go, that's really kind of interesting, and maybe you can get somebody to talk to you about it. I don't know that t-shirts are conversation pieces, but go out to the, when you're on the link, go out and click on the link, and Jason will send you one of these. Now, we cannot do what we do, all this fun stuff, with the aircraft without your donation. So there's a link on this page. Please click on the donation link. If you came across us on YouTube, all we do are long form military aircraft videos, and we would love if you would forward that to your friends and neighbors. Tell them about us. Give us a subscription and a like. If you came across us on Facebook, give us a like on Facebook. and give us a comment. We love comments. There are teacher's guides associated with this. If you have kids at home and you're homeschooling, click on those teacher's guides. There's all kinds of stuff about the Palm Springs Air Museum that you can learn about, which is fantastic. We want you to do that. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks very much. Have a great day.